Microphones are on.
Madam Clerk?
Yeah, well, that worked. Not really, actually.
Oh, really?
Maybe classy.
Are there any OBs?
Is there any other business for now?
OMGs.
No, there's not.
All right, our first item is the minutes of the Council's committee meeting held on Monday, October 19th. The recommendation is that the committee approve the minutes.
So moved. Second?
Moved by Councillor Asmussen, seconded by Councillor Hodge. And we've got any discussion? Yes, we have a point of discussion.
I know unusual on this, but I note on the on page 4 in the report of General Manager on the middle school walkability, I had some specific comments with regards to the responses to resident concerns. The one that comes to mind is Summit. It's not made any reference to perhaps modifications to how we would communicate back to residents in terms of when we do address something. I'm wondering if it's possible to amend the minutes with comment to that nature.
We'll take that away and we'll bring them back next week.
Move deferral. Second.
Any further discussion? Yes, Councillor Hodge.
No, so I'm ahead of you, sorry.
All in favor of deferral? Opposed? Passed unanimously. Madam Clerk.
Item 2 is our first delegation. I'd like to invite Mr. Albert Poy to please come forward. Mr. Poy would like to discuss transaction fees at the Metro Vancouver Coquitlam Resource Recovery Plant.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Good evening, Mayor Stewart and councillors. I'm here just to ask one question, really, and I'll go through the background after. I'd like to know what a transaction fee is, and I'd like to know why government employees can't make change. Let me go through what happened. I sent you as all a copy of my bill, okay? Well, I picked up the city garbage that everybody likes to dump in my lane, okay, and threw it in my truck. Then I go down to sit down to the dump or the recovery station, and I can read, so I read the sign. It says minimum charge $25 between 10 and 2, and $15 between after that. So I turn around and go home because it's 1:30. So I come down there, I think at 3:37 again, and I go dump the garbage off. No problem. I come out to pay. I notice that they don't want cash anymore, but I didn't bring my credit cards, okay? So anyway, I go through and they charge me $25. So I go home and I look at the bill. Okay. The bill was $19.50 by weight, okay? Then they add $5 transaction fee, make it $24.50. But guess what they do to insult you more? They then round up. Okay? Now, so I go, and I finally, after, I'll make it short for you, I went through every manager you can go through. So I know that this council approved this increase in these transactions. Yes, you did. I got, well, okay, we got a dispute because according to the notes sent by Mr. Lynn Ross, we did. Okay? Let me finish. So, then you can ask your questions, okay? So I asked them why, okay? And here are the reasons I got why we do this, okay? No one knows what the transaction fee is. Just something magically went through in early February or so. The other thing, they raised the fees from $109 a ton to $130 a ton. But it maxes out at $109 if you're at the high end. So it's a little confusing. So I asked them, because I'm really annoyed. What is the transaction fee? No one knows. No one knows why. We just needed the money. Best answer they could come up with was because the BC government wouldn't make them a monopoly and disallow the removal of garbage privately. That's the official answer. So then I said, okay, at $24.50, still out 50 cents. I mean, that's, you know, that $5 fee is a 33% whopping fee. Then it's another 2% for the 50 cents. Oh, it's too hard to make change by the employees. So, you know, I'm a very easy guy to get along with. That's
we
why.
know about you.
And you'll hear me tonight, too. And that's why I am back.
Quite as easy as that.
So I just don't understand why you people, I want to answer the question, what is it? What is a transaction fee so I can understand? Because my best thing, I know how we can solve our transit problem. We'll charge a $5 transaction fee every time you buy a ticket.
Okay.
Well, no, I'm on the list.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Poy. Posed a very interesting question. $5 on top of roughly $20 is a
15.
1950.
1950 was your.
Yeah, that was on mine, but it even comes on the $15.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. It represented 25% for you.
Comes on-
For the minimum,
comes on
it
to
would be
$10.
33%. Got
Yeah,
it.
it comes on $10, but they always charge you 15 and then up.
That's fine. Okay, good. Now, I wonder, does staff, city manager, Mr. Stephan?
Yeah, well, I can certainly provide some context. This is not a city facility. This is a metro facility, and the metro board did make certain changes this year in terms of how they charge things, and they did include a transactional fee. They weren't, as you may or may not have known, they did have some problems, the words that you used, because they didn't get their monopoly, that kind of thing. You made some very interesting points, which I think some of us would agree with, but we aren't the approval body for that. Now, Craig will say something, I'm sure, because he is on the Solid Waste Committee, which struggles with these kind of things. I'm not sure, you know, he would be the one that said, he certainly didn't come up with them, but Metro did come up with a totally new way of charging, and they have adjusted it already since they originally set it up, and I'm sure they're going to adjust it some further. But this
Thank you,
council
Mr.
has
Stephan.
not made those decisions, so you probably should take it to the Metro Committee and be a delegation there.
Thank you, but conveniently we have our two Metro representatives here around the table, and they both asked to speak, Mayor Stewart and Councillor Hodge.
Thank you very much for coming. We don't always see eye to eye on this one. We probably do. There, to some degree, anyway. This, as Mr. Stephan said, this isn't us. This is Metro. Metro Vancouver is 22 communities sitting around the table making decisions. There are, in fact, this council isn't in agreement with much of the solid waste issue as Metro Vancouver sees it. We have disagreed and voted against some of those elements, and will probably continue to do so because it does seem that there's a different direction there. But on this particular thing, I actually this morning made the call trying to figure out what it was used for, why would we round, all of those things. They weren't able to get back to me before the beginning of my meetings today, which is understandable. Today is a full day of meetings, but I intend to find out more about the rounding, because that's just ridiculous, and about what the transaction fee is meant for. I recognize that the transaction fee is meant to make it to share the administrative cost of that office, of running the scale among everybody that uses the scale, rather than disproportionately put it on the backs of the heavy haulers, because it costs about the same to weigh a private vehicle twice, to weigh a big truck twice. And so I recognize that was their intent. I'm not supporting it or arguing in favor of it. I'm just saying that's where we're at. But in the end, you're before us saying, this was our decision, this isn't even our facility, this has nothing to do with us. It really is Metro Vancouver.
Thank you, Mayor Stewart. Councillor Hodge, then Councillor Cirillo and Councillor Asmundson also want to speak on this
Well,
issue.
it is a Metro Vancouver facility, and we are a member of Metro Vancouver. As the mayor said, we don't always agree on everything, and in fact, we have certainly been very vocal on some of our concerns around solid waste. It's true, I do sit on the solid waste committee. I'm just new onto that committee. This was one of the first items that came before me. You are correct. It is there has been a change made in the tipping fees from the large loads of 9 tons right down. This fee was put in place to recognize that there's a higher cost associated with smaller loads. So it's basically your volume discount, and it starts at 133 and goes down, or 130 and goes down to $80 if you're a large load. So that part is correct. I didn't get a chance to ask all the questions. I wasn't, to be honest, wasn't aware of the rounding up, but I did ask about the transaction fee. I had a chance to ask about that on the weekend, and I actually got a response back last night, so I do appreciate that staff took the time to respond back. The answer that I received is the minimum fee for garbage is $10. That's the minimum fee, plus and that's based on anything you bring in. When you start hitting the volumes, then they price it out differently. But the minimum fee is $10 plus a $5 transaction fee for a total of $15. This would be the amount charged for loads up to approximately 75 kilograms. Loads above 75 kilograms are based on tipping fees per ton. The way the $5 transaction fee was explained to me is it is to recognize the fixed cost associated with each load. So to the mayor's point, they recognize that there is a certain cost of just doing business, and that they chose the $5 fee as a way of spreading that across all of the users, recognizing that there is more work and time involved in handling the small loads. So that was the justification and the thinking behind the multi-rate structure.
Mr. Poy, was the $5 fee indicated on the sign outside? You said you saw that the hours for the discount hours.
No, it's
were higher.
not.
And there's no. So maybe that's something you take back.
I actually afterwards, as somebody who's used the facility, I'd like to hear some of your feedback and more about some of this, because you raised a couple things that I wasn't aware of, and I'd certainly like to hear more after, but maybe not in this forum.
Sure, thank you.
You need to get us 50 cents.
Councillor
Yeah, I know
Cirillo.
you're 50 cents.
Cirillo.
Well, I'd like to thank you for coming in, because a couple of weeks ago I raised the concern about what we're calling curbside donation on the curbs. I've been a city councillor in this city just over 2 years, and I have noticed, or coming up to 2 years, and I have noticed an increase in the amount of garbage that's like TVs, washing machines, couches that are sitting on the curb, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the reasons that we're seeing that, because you're telling me it's going to cost you $15 at least to go down there, and you need the cash. So I would like to ask, I know it's been asked in an informal way, but perhaps we could send a letter to Metro in a formal way to get clarification on this transaction fee. And I would like to know where this change goes, because we are certainly absorbing costs too. We've had to go out and send engineering to pull things off the boulevard or dumping, and that's all being paid by our taxpayer. So I would love to see us, as a city, whatever gets put in the change pot comes back to the cities. But to start, just perhaps we could have a formal explanation from Metro of what this transaction fee is and where this change is going. Thank you for bringing that in, because it puts some clarity into why I'm seeing so much curbside donations lately.
Well, thank you for your comments, but I just want to point out one quick thing. It won't take us 10 seconds. First of all, they told me to come to council, okay? They said, take your concerns to your council.
Who's they?
Glenn Ross.
Metro Van. Yeah.
Yeah?
Or the
So did the other two managers I spoke to. Everybody told me there, take your concern to council. They voted on it. They didn't. I got a list of who attended the meeting. Doesn't tell me how you voted. I could even tell you the names, okay? But that's not so bad. They told me to come to
Good.
council,
Got that.
which I am doing.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Asmussen has questions or comments as
So
well.
my point was almost exactly what Councillor, I've raised it before, and Councillor here about our position. We've said this to them when we relayed this to Metro Vancouver. They increased the fees for local people for dumping a while back, and we've seen a steady increase in illegal dumping throughout our municipality, costing our taxpayers a greater amount of money. We haven't been happy with this. Craig will go back and relay that message to Metro Vancouver. But we have no control over their rates. We have reps on the board, and I don't know why. They probably told you to come here to council to raise the issue for us to send it on to Metro Vancouver as an official change. But we don't set the rates. We have no authority over Metro Vancouver's rates from the city directly. That is by the board of directors and the Metro Vancouver organization. But we have raised this issue because I think putting greater costs on the smaller person trying to move some stuff doesn't get the recycling, doesn't get our diversion rates up, and puts more waste. And we have a couple areas in the city where we have people emailing us on a weekly or 2 weekly basis of illegal dumping in their areas where they live, because it's a common area to dump stuff. And it's not helping. So I'm just echoing what Councillor Giroulo said. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pye.
Thank you, council. But I just want to
It's fine.
one little quick thing.
Yeah.
You know, this is why people don't trust municipal councils anymore. I sat there out there, just so you know, for an hour. Most people just pay the bill, and they all were furious when they realized they were paying a $5 transaction fee.
Well, if people don't
Thank
trust
you.
local government because of the operation of a different level of government, that's difficult. So, but go ahead. Thank you.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Mr. Chair.
Madam Clerk.
Okay. Item 3 is our next delegation. I'd like to invite Mr. John Kingsbury, Jim Bagan, and Brent Shaw from the Kingsmen Club of Coquitlam to please come forward for a presentation concerning event planning for the 2016 August long weekend.
Room always wants to sit down too.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, Mr. Mayor and councils. Council members.
You can introduce your two colleagues.
I'm here to introduce and support our guys here. This is Mr. Jim Bagan and Mr. Brent Shaw. You remember Brent from his hockey playing days in Coquitlam? And on and on. We're here to, on a sort of a good news capacity today, to introduce a project that we want to do for your 2016 celebrations. It's a little different than normal. I know for years and years the city has looked at family-oriented projects and family-oriented activities. This one is not family-oriented, so this will be your decision. We are going to do a presentation on what it is, and we can take questions after. So, Jim, want to carry on?
Yep. Well, we're going to show the video? Yeah. Thank you.
The Kinsmen International Craft Beer Festival is destined to become a permanent fixture on the Tri-Cities calendar. Developed by West Events in conjunction with the resources and guidance of the Kinsmen Club, the event will offer the opportunity for beer lovers and those who are curious to enjoy a variety of quality craft beer offerings, as well as food and live entertainment in a safe, clean, and secure outdoor environment. The West Events team is led by Brent Shaw and Jim Bagan, who combined have over 50 years' experience in the beverage and events business.
West Events is a Coquitlam-based company, been around for approximately 20 years, doing events such as Twassen Days, Sun Festival. A highlight was the 2010 Winter Olympics. We covered the Slovak House, Squamish Lager Days, and currently, in its 5th year, the Vancouver Christmas Market, which is a beer garden from 9 to 9 down at the Queen Elizabeth Theatre.
I've been in the beer and wine industry for upwards of 30 years now. I currently run a small estate winery out of the Narromata Bench area called Moraine Estate Winery.
The event will be staged based on the highly successful Great Canadian Beer Festival in Victoria. This festival has been running successfully since 1993 and attracts over 8,000 patrons in a 2-day format.
We had an opportunity to go over to Victoria, where a similar craft beer festival is hosted. And we decided to take a few of the similarities from that event, not duplicate, but simply emulating, back to Vancouver.
For its inaugural, the Craft Beer Festival will coincide with Coquitlam's 125th birthday, offering a chance to further celebrate the rich history of our city.
We thought Coquitlam needed something that was adult-orientated. Victoria has a world-renowned beer festival. Whistler has a world-renowned beer festival, and I think it's time that Coquitlam offered a world-renowned beer festival. And with the 125th anniversary, why not now?
Security is a high priority for the festival, and the organizational team has included a large budget for private security to ensure that patrons are safe and that behavior is appropriate at all times.
We're also working with a local taxi company that helps provide safe ride home for all participants.
Entertainment will be provided by musicians, including local talent, mascot characters, and busker-style entertainers. A center stage will feature artists throughout the event, and others will roam the site to keep patrons engaged.
The affiliation with the Kinsmen Club in this beer festival is it's about charity. This is a good opportunity with a festival like this and West Events is to generate lots of revenue so we can put it back into the community.
Coquitlam's heart, the town center, provides a perfect location to stage the event with a 20,000 square meter grass field directly west of Percy Perry Stadium, accessed from 3 large parking lots.
The reason why we chose Percy Perry Stadium is because its accessibility to parking, transit, and it's such a central location. And first and foremost, it's just a fantastic setting and background.
Level access would be provided at the southeast corner of the site, thereby allowing disabled and elderly visitors to easily access the event. The event will include approximately 50 craft beer vendors serving beer from around the world. Additionally, there will be a number of mobile food trucks providing a wide variety of cuisine for sale.
We feel that this beer festival will further position the city as an entertainment destination for the surrounding GVRD community for years to come.
The Kinsmen International Craft Beer Festival. Mark your calendars for July 30th and 31st, the August long weekend 2016. Brought to you by the Kinsmen Club and West Events.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Now, pleasure. I see in your the formal written request to appear that you're seeking council's endorsement and approval.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I'd like to call in the General Manager of Parks, Rec and Culture to talk about how events are formally approved, the process normally and in the 125 as well. Mr. Alueva.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Generally, any new events, so the germination of an idea of an event, and at some point the event proposer, in this case whoever's putting the proposal forward, would approach our staff. We have an events team. Our events team would then look at the idea, determine whether it meets our general event guidelines, where it's going to be held, is it an appropriate venue, is there any conflict with the existing events in that venue, potentially, and then we would look at the logistics of the event itself. We also look at a variety of other aspects of the support for events. We talk to engineering and public works. We also look at economic development issues. And at some point, we do have to gather all that information internally. And in some cases, when an event may or may not be appropriate for one reason or another, we would then convey that to the applicant, and we may also communicate to council if an event is supported or not supported, depending on the type of event. In some cases, elements like alcohol, it's an item which we would probably communicate to council for whatever opportunity we might have to do that. We've had early communications with this group, but we have not had any opportunity at this point to really vet the event through the system. In terms of the 125th, if it's a 125th event possibility, there's some sanctioning opportunities that we would have to go through the 125th committee, the task force, and then there's some opportunities there to, if it's aligned with the goals and objectives of the city with respect to 125th, then it would have an opportunity to be also supported through the 125th committee, and there's some potential funding, but it's minimal with respect to the 125th itself. In this particular case, I just want to reiterate, we've had no real opportunity to vet this event. We would have to take that opportunity, and we at this point we have to determine whether it's an appropriate enterprise. I mean, there's elements such as what we charge for this and what is returned back to the city. All those things we would vet as part of this review.
Thank you, Mr. Allaway. And at some stage, that does come to council with your recommendation or not. Right.
And so we would bring that back to council once we vetted the...
Okay, and it's good to hear from the person early on. It never hurts. I have a couple of speakers on the list, Councillor Asmundson and Councillor Reid. Please. Let's speak to.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation. Interesting idea. I do think, though, from what our general manager said, is that it needs to go through staff to be vetted through the idea. The concept's a decent concept to be done. We have to look at what are the conflicts on August long weekend. If you're looking at the September long weekend, that's a sports events are all booked and those things. So there's different things that already have possibly been booking the spaces. Those fields in that area are turf fields, not grass. So the north side is now an all turfed areas, which the artificial turf. Mm-hmm. So those are a huge cost. Damage or liquor could be something. We've had another organization in the city for a couple of years wanting to do a craft beer in their area, and the provincial liquor inspector here has not been willing to approve that. So I don't know if you've gotten in touch with the provincial liquor inspector to see if you can get authorizations to do what you want to do, because they have had for a couple of years have had not, because the inspector that's for Coquitlam area is different than one that's for Port Moody.
Yep.
Okay, and the one here has been not very cooperative. So they've been trying for a couple of years to get a craft brewery set up in their location and haven't been able to get it.
Craft brewery.
Well, not craft brewery, but a beer festival on their area, okay. And it hasn't happened. So I think those are some issues from my end on council that we need more information from staff. We need to know logistics. We need to know a lot of other things. There's a whole thing that council has to be satisfied. Is it a good concept? Sure. But I don't think today give approval or recommendation. That wouldn't be possible. We would need a report from staff detailing out all the other impacts and the possibilities on this. I'll direct staff to work with you, okay, to bring back a report as soon as possible. But that'd be my suggestion.
Thank you,
Thank you. Mr. Kingsbury.
With all due respect, we have started this process about 4 months ago with your staff. We have had meetings with them. We have asked for sanctions for this project. We have had meetings with your tourism minister, your tourism person. We've had meetings with the staff at the Parks Board. They have enthusiastically supported us. We've looked at the date. They've enthusiastically said that the date would be a good date at this point. And we have been led to believe that the next step would be to make sure that we check with the RCMP. The licensing we've looked into, the licensing is done in Victoria, and it's a provincial matter. So we have covered all those bases. We do a lot of events, not quite this size, but we know what we're doing. And we were under the impression that this would have got to you by now, and the instructions were that it had to be approved by council. So we are now here in front of council asking for that approval. So whether your people have not got this to you is quite surprising to us, to be honest. We've went through these meetings with them, and they're all well aware of it. And I can name names, which I don't want to do. I won't do, but you should maybe follow up with your staff before you give us this lesson on what we're supposed to do, because obviously we've been through that.
Thank you, Mr. Kingsbury. Mr. Allaway, who would like to speak again.
Yeah, I'm happy to name names, actually. They've been talking to Eric Kellness from Economic Development, who's working with this group to find out exactly what this event is all about. They've had a meeting or two with some of my event staff who've raised concerns about the event. I'll be straight with you. The weekend works. The weekend is not an issue in terms of conflict of another event, but we are looking at it carefully, and we have not indicated that this is the venue to approve the project. We've indicated it's a staff decision. We've got to come back to council with information on once we have the information required to vet the proposal. That isn't accurate. There's been some preliminary discussions with staff, but we have not been in any kind of position to make a recommendation to council, and we've certainly not indicated this is the venue to do so.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Reid and Mayor Stewart speaking. Councillor Reid.
Well, I like it, and when we're talking liquor, I mean, pretty soon we're going to be having liquor when you buy aspirins or when you buy diapers or wherever. It's going everywhere, so it's not that liquor is going to be increasing, just a proliferation of liquor spots in the city, because we're going to have them all over the place. My concern is, I didn't know, this is the first I've heard of this, but is this going to be something that if it's successful you're going to do year after year? That's my big thing. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for stuff that we're going to be doing year after year.
Yes, we would love to have your endorsement to do it year after year. We would love to make a permanent fixture in the community.
And so are you still, at the same time that you'd be offering this event to Coquitlam, are you still going to be doing Whistler and Victoria?
No, we're not. We're only participants in Whistler and Victoria. We don't. We're not organizers for Whistler and Victoria. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and so I guess we'll hear more from Parks and Leisure for sure.
Just to inform you, that what we've passed out is this is a schematic of how the field would be set up, and on the front is the Great Canadian Beer Festival that we're trying to emulate over in Victoria. And as you can see on the top right-hand corner, there's a ticket there for a safe ride home. I mean, we've allocated thousands and thousands of dollars, I mean, over an ample budget for safe ride home and things like that. And I'm going to hold up, this is the idea of the festival, is what we do is you give a 5-ounce glass like this. What you do is you pour the distributors, the exhibitors pour a 4-ounce sample, and you use tokens to refill them. So we sell tokens after we give tokens. Initially, when you charge to get into it, somebody had asked what the charge, the cost to get into it was. The idea is you charge. We're thinking around $40 for the entry fee. You get one of these glasses that's reusable. And then what we're going to do is we're going to give them some tokens in there that'll be included in the entrance fee as well. And then what they do in the brochure, and then they rebuy tokens if they want to try it and sample some more beers. Yeah.
So are you going to be using local?
Absolutely. It'll be mostly craft beer. We've already been in touch with the Craft Beer Guild, and they're waiting to hear from us.
I'm only asking that because we've been trying to look at getting breweries into our area.
Oh, absolutely.
I noticed you're building little blocks and you've got things that you hammer in. Is that
we won't be putting that. We won't be, that's at Whistler. We won't be putting the hammer hitting thing in there. And we won't be putting. We won't be putting the what do they call it, where they build the blocks there. The thing that we wanted to emphasize when we did the video there was the entertainment value in there. Remember when you saw Bert and Ernie in there, and you saw the.
And just let me ask a question.
Please.
What time? What's the start and stop here?
We're thinking it's about a 4 to 5 hour window, but we want to shut it down by 8 o'clock at night, so there's ample time to disperse and get everybody home over the summer hours. Yeah, so it'll be. I mean, the supper hours. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So from 4 to 8 or something like that.
Something around there. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you bring in your own security.
Oh, absolutely. By law, there's a formula.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll do.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to have $10 glasses because I don't think I could make $40.
Thank you, Councillor Reid.
Thank you.
Mayor Stewart.
Excellent input, Councillor Reid. And I want to address, I think Mr. Kingsbury was responding to what he heard from Mr. Alueva, and I heard the same thing, at least that I understood it, was that this is a little bit of a surprise to staff, that this has taken them without enough information. And I gather Mr. Elliot is saying, no, that isn't the case. It's just that that's how I had interpreted your first comment. So I think that's why he responded in that way. This, I would have assumed that you would have gone to staff, given that this is a city facility, and that's where we typically start, and it sounds like you did.
3 meetings.
Yeah, and fair enough. So what I want Coquitlam to be perceived as very responsive. I want us to be fun. I want us, and council wants us to have, responsive, non-bureaucratic. We want us to be able to find ways to make things happen if they can happen. I actually went to the Rib Fest 4 years ago in Kamloops, the Rotary Rib Fest, and I came back with photos and the whole bit, and I sent it to the Coquitlam Rotary Club, and I said, come on, you guys can do this stuff, it would be absolutely great. And 3 years later, the Rotary Club of Fort Moody decided to do it at Fort Moody, and they did it like really quickly, and I lament the fact that Coquitlam's Rotary Club wasn't as fast as, and in fact, Coquitlam ended up working with Fort Moody and volunteering and doing all that stuff. I want us to see us have those kinds of festivities. The fact that this one is associated with beer and not ribs, I don't think is a big issue. Ribs are not necessarily good for you. In a lot of ways, that beer is not necessarily good for you. But and similarly, wine tasting and the kinds of wine and cheese that we all go to all the time. So I want us to find, as a community, ways for this kind of event to happen. I'm not going to second guess the work that staff's got to do to make sure it fits into a schedule and that it's appropriate and there's a right venue and all that sort of stuff. But I like it, and I could, get a ride home after. So I can do the.
My place is closed.
Thank you, Stuart. We've got Councillor Marsden and then Councillor Cirillo.
Thank you. You're right. I think a lot of what we do in the city is family-oriented events, and I think I, for one, would certainly welcome some adult-oriented events like this. When I had an opportunity to attend a wine tasting over the course of the weekend, it was very similar in that, a bunch of different vineyards from around the province are in one place, and spectacular event. It's grown quite well. So I like the looks of this. I'd like to support it. Question I would have, it sounds like there's been some dialogue, but there's some more to happen, and some things have to come into place. What would be your drop-dead date that you would need from a lead time for marketing and everything that you would have to know for certain from the city that, yes, we're in? What would be that time frame?
Well, the time frame with that involves with applications for grants, applications for venues. Mainly, we're looking for the idea and principle to be okayed. We understand you have to go through all the other bureaucratic nonsense, but we need to get some kind of an issue from council whether do you vaguely agree with this concept or not, or are we just going to go to the root test?
Because we're looking, say, the end of July, I believe you were talking about.
Yes, we are.
The end of July. So, is it a January, December 1st, January 1st?
December 1st would be ideal. December 1st would be ideal.
Okay.
That really runs us through the end of the year because not much is going to get done that time. But then after January 1, it's full guns a-blazing.
Okay, so through the chair to our general manager of Parks and Rec, based on the information you do have at this point, would that time frame work in terms of staff being able to gather the appropriate information to make a recommendation to council?
Yeah, through your chair, yes, I think we'll just whatever. I don't think there's a lot of missing information. There's some details. We have to kind of process the entire package of information. I think within a few weeks we can come back with a brief report on with the details and present that to council for consideration. So we can work with the December 1st target.
Thank you. And while you would ask that the inaugural event, anyways, would happen in our 125th, I don't think we need to tie it to our 125th and pass it through the committee to say that this is a 125th event. I don't think we need to go to that. It could be one of a plethora of events that will happen throughout 2016. So I just wouldn't want to put more hurdles in the process if that's appropriate. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Councillor Marsden. Councillor Cirillo.
Thank you. My comments are more for staff than for the delegation today, but I just wanted to take this opportunity to support staff at this point in time, because we've heard some different things today, is that this council has put a big burden on this staff for the 125th. We've asked them to provide a framework of a bunch of festivities for the 125th birthday year. Those have not yet been finalized, but those are the first priority of this council and city, I believe, for the 125th birthday year. So I totally get it. This is exciting. I made the note that it's, you know, building community and potentially for next year, not necessarily the birthday year, but 2017. But I'm not saying that it shouldn't be this year. But I certainly want to support staff in that this is, we haven't even as a council seen all of the events that are coming for 2015. We've all expressed around this table concern that our resources are stretched to the absolute limit for what we have planned for 125th birthday already. And I just want to say that I would have rather seen this come through staff as part of the bigger initiative. And if the GM of Parks even alluded to it today, is it within what we're planning to do for 125th? This group mentioned that it's maybe adult-oriented. We haven't even decided as this group if it's all about family next year or if it's all about... So I appreciate you coming in, but I just wanted to make sure that it was on the record that I support that staff definitely has to look at this in a wider perspective, and I appreciate that this is not an easy one. This just because of the year that it's coming, it's not an easy one. We're already stretched with resources and desires. Thank you.
And Councillor Hodge will bring this discussion to a head.
Yeah, I just want to say that one of the goals of the 125 is very good. One of the goals of the 125 is to create legacy of events and events that can be ongoing. It's not necessarily that it has to be run as part of that committee, but they're looking to do a number of events, and it's possible that if this goes forward, that it can be jointly marketed. It can be part of the event schedule that's published for the 125th. So I think there's certainly opportunities to start it, but we're always looking for events and ways to leave legacy and to create more events, both from an economic and tourism capacity as well. So from what I've seen, I think it's an interesting idea. Obviously, there's the logistics to work out, but I encourage staff to work with you, and I hope that we will hear more information about this in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brewing. Yeah. Grant, put a cap on this discussion. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Mr. Shaw, Mr. Bagan, Mr. Kingsbury, appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it very much.
There you go.
Thank you.
There you go.
All right.
Cap.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Madam Clerk.
Okay. Item 4 is a delegation. I'd like to invite Gordon Schoberg and Gary Abbott from Fortis, BC to please come forward for a presentation concerning Fortis, BC's projects in Coquitlam.
Thank you.
Mayor, councillors.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Can you reintroduce yourselves for everybody here?
There's more than just gentlemen.
Wow.
John.
They didn't come forward, so only 2 came forward. So, yes.
I'm Gordon Schoberg. I'm the Senior Manager, Community Aboriginal Relations for Fortis, BC, and my colleague here is Gary Abbott, who looks after the compressor station up the hill here in Coquitlam. And
actually, I used to be the operations manager there for 10 years. Now I'm on the Eagle Mountain Gas Pipeline Project, which is the expansion of that facility, which you're going to be mostly interested in.
When you're speaking,
that mic there?
I think Mr. Abbott's going to have to use a microphone as well.
We share that mic, that's okay. Just in the gallery, you may be familiar with Joan Isaac, who's our Community Relations Manager, looking after a lot of things. I can see the waves, and to her left is Elliot Moses, who's our Community Relations Manager in Squamish, working on the Eagle Mountain Pipeline, which Gary referred to in a moment ago.
Thank you.
We don't really have an ask of council today, but we thought it was a good opportunity to provide an update to 3 large projects that Fortis has in the planning stage and that affect the city of Coquitlam. We were here over a year ago, thanks, and updated you with a couple of them that were just in their initial inception. There's been some development on the projects that we'd like you to be aware of, and obviously give you an opportunity for some feedback and questions, which I'm sure you'll be interested in. Now, watch me make a mess of this. Okay. Oh, okay. just roll the ball. So the three projects are the Lower Mainland Intermediate Pressure System, or pressure upgrade, and the second one is a Coastal Transmission System upgrade. The third one, which has been referred to, is the Eagle Mountain Wood Fiber Pipeline. So those are the three we'll just provide a brief update on now. First of all, just to brag about how good we are in your community, there's been chat already about the 125th anniversary celebration, and although it's not on the list there, we have committed to participate in that, so we're looking forward to helping you celebrate that event. Some of the things that we have done, each year we have a large employee volunteer project somewhere in the Lower Mainland. A couple of years ago we did one at Inspiration Garden, and that was very successful, and we were really happy to have your support with that. The Canada Day celebrations, again next year, will be there with flying our colors and particularly helping educate folks about energy efficiency. We do something unique here that we don't do elsewhere, and that is to fund an energy specialist position, and that's in City Hall here, and that person helps you reduce your energy bills, and not just here, but all of the city-owned facilities, and so that's been going very well, and Joan's taken the lead at working with that person, and we're really happy with how that's working out. And of course, taxes paid, there you go, 1.4 million bucks. So just moving into the first of the three projects, I'm going to talk about the first two and then leave it with my colleague Gary here to speak about the Eagle Mountain project. The Lower Mainland Intermediate System Upgrade project involves the replacement of 20 kilometers of our arterial gas line through Coquitlam, Burnaby, and Vancouver. 5 kilometers of that is in the city of Coquitlam along Como Lake Road, and it'll be a 30-inch diameter gas line, and it serves close to 300,000 customers in those three communities. So it's a very important arterial gas line for us. The reason that we're replacing it are, well, we call it integrity issues. The not so engineering term is leaking. There's been 14 small leaks on it since 2010. Those have been discovered by our own operations people as they walk along the gas line weekly with their gas meter before it gets to a point where it's a public safety issue, and we get in there and replace those sections of gas line. We expect that those situations would continue to occur if we didn't replace the gas line, and so in cooperation with the Oil and Gas Commission, who's our safety regulator, we've decided that it's prudent to plan the appropriate replacement of the gas line. We are right now drilling some geotechnical holes along that route, about 70 of them, and just brought a sample of one of the notification cards that we hand out to neighbors around the area that or residents around the area that alert them that we're going to be closing off a lane or two of Como Lake Road and when we're going to do the drilling. So we've been trying to communicate effectively with residents all along the route. We understand Como Lake Road is very heavily trafficked, particularly in the morning and afternoon, and we want to try and respect people and make them aware of what we're doing. And as construction would near in 2018, we'll certainly be rolling out a much more comprehensive communication plan with them. We have just received approval from the BC Utilities Commission.
Excuse me just a minute, Councillor Reid.
I'm sorry, just on Como Lake, from where to where? From Mariner right down to Burnaby, or is it just, does it just stop at North Road, Clark Road?
All the way through, and it'll connect
right off to SFU?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine, and I should have mentioned it begins at Mariner and heads west from there. Just received BC Utilities Commission approval for this, and we expect construction to commence in 2018. So that's the Lower Mainland Intermediate Pressure System Upgrade. I'll just move.
Again, a very quick question, Councillor.
You bet.
I'm just wondering about, are you replacing like for like at this point? Are we expanding the size of that pipe, or is it like for like on the pipe?
Good question. It is expanding from a 20-inch gas line to a 30-inch. And the reason for that is to increase our system flexibility. If we look at the entire arterial system in the Lower Mainland, it's like a great big circle. And so if we want to shut down a piece of that to work on it, it's nice to be able to backfeed around the other parts of the circle. We're not currently able to do that, so by increasing the size of the pipe, we're giving that operational flexibility.
And one more question about the consumption. I know we had this discussion on the tax side.
Yeah.
Is any of the gas that's going to pass through these pipes for consumption for us here in Coquitlam, or is it all just passing through?
On this particular project, this is passing through. It's serving domestic customers, existing customers. It's not. So it's going to continue serving the customers that are the 20-inch line is serving now.
Yeah, just they aren't Coquitlamites.
Yeah.
For Coquitlam. Okay, get it. Because I think
Are
there's.
or are not?
They are Coquitlam residents.
Yeah.
Yes, they are Coquitlam residents.
So this pipeline serves serves Coquitlam residents.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
I think that has implication on tax revenues, right?
The tax revenues are based on the gross revenue that's consumed within the municipality, and so this won't directly affect the tax revenues.
If we don't increase our
Correct.
don't increase our consumption. Okay.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hodge had a
Just
quick
before we
question.
move on to the next project, what requirements, permits, and that are required locally? What do you have to do with our staff, and what requirements?
Great question, and I see Dana Songs in the audience here today, and we've been working closely with Dana and his staff and park staff since the beginning of the project. We require a City of Coquitlam permit for road crossings. And then through the Oil and Gas Commission, permitting around demonstrating adequate consultation with First Nations, any land that we acquire, which we're not planning on needing any additional right-of-way, and environmental permits. The Oil and Gas Commission will oversee that. The BCUC is a financial regulator because customers will pay for this gas line. They want to ensure cost prudency, and they'll be monitoring our spending all the way through the project.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Asmussen had a quick question as well.
On the Coquitlam Avenue road work, on Como Lake Avenue, sorry, are you going to be simply cutting and patching where you're in the roadway, or are you going to be repaving the road for Coquitlam in that stretch when you do work in that area?
That's a good question, and I'm not sure we've got to that point in the engineering design yet, and our discussions with your city engineering. The purpose of doing the geotechnical drilling right now is to inform our detailed engineering, and at that point, in conjunction with your engineering department, we'll be talking about what the detailed restoration is going to look like, including the amount of paving.
Does the line run all the way underneath the roadway, or does it go on to outside the roadway in certain areas?
It's entirely under the roadway, and in most, if not all of it, under the blacktop.
Okay, that's something that's a concern for Coquitlam, and the expense that it will hit us in our road. If it's cutting and patching, that's just degrading our road system in the future and its longevity of life on that. So I think that's an issue for Coquitlam to be fully rehabbed on that road, to be my preferential opinion in that area. But that's a concern for us.
And engineering's already made us aware of that as well. So we'll certainly be working with them in that respect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Get back on track.
Okay, quickly on to the next one here. Sorry about that. The Coastal Transmission System project. This project is actually 3 segments, but there's only one that touches the city of Coquitlam. And if you see north of the Fraser River, the Cape Horn station to Coquitlam station This will begin south by the Fraser River in the industrial area, and then travel north across the near the Cape Horn interchange of Highway 1, up the hill across Mariner Way, and basically following the existing BC Hydro and Fortis BC right-of-way. And additional right-of-way is unlikely along this stretch. And so in Coquitlam, 5 kilometers of 36-inch transmission pipeline. So this will be the high-pressure gas line. It will not be a replacement. It'll be in addition to the one that's there now. The one that's there now was installed back in the 1950s, so it's been a long time since we've been in that right-of-way doing any expansion. And the reason that we're doing this is to reduce operational risk. For example, if we had an incident on the existing gas line, several 100,000 customers in the Lower Mainland would be out of gas. And the prospect of relighting that many customers is daunting. It's not like electrical where you just flip the switch back on. Terry, you know all about how you relight gas customers, and you got to get into the house, relight all appliances. So we really want to avoid having a massive incident where we've got a massive outage like that. So this twin gas line will help provide the system reinforcement for that, and it'll also add some capacity for additional customers and industrial users. We do have provincial government support. We've received an order in council approving this project from the province, and that was December 2014. So now we're working again with your engineering department, working through the details. One of the things I was going to touch on later, but I'll just touch on it now, is we've been working with your parks and engineering to identify a community project that we can leave here once we're all done, to just kind of help leave things in a little better condition when we find them. And your staff has put forward the idea of extending your multi-use pathway and strengthening your multi-use pathway system. And where we can do that along our existing right-of-way, we not only serve a benefit of ensuring access for our own operating people to maintain the pipeline, but we can extend your pathway system as well. So in the area of Mundy Park is one of the areas that they're looking at, and we're continuing the dialogue with engineering and parks in that respect. But we're going to put $200,000 towards that, and also do some things during the restoration of the construction project as well. So I think we can do some things that are going to help strengthen that path network.
Before you leave this project, Councillor Zarillo has a question.
I do. I actually remember seeing a bit of this before, and we were talking about the expansions and extensions here. I'm just wondering, could you just let us know on the increased capacity again, what's the customer base for that, or where is the customer base for that increased capacity?
Part of it at this point is the wood fiber LNG plant in Squamish.
Yeah.
And I think you asked how much of the gas flowing through this gas line would flow through to wood fiber.
I don't think I did, but...
Somebody did. Sorry. In any case.
Now you've raised the subject.
Now that I've raised it. The answer for that is between 25 and 50%. Depending on the time of year. Obviously, when the demand for gas is higher in the winter, the percentage flowing through to wood fiber would be at the 25% level. And so that's the reason that we're on a 2017 construction date with this project. If wood fiber, for example, ends up not being approved or not moving forward, this project would still be needed to serve the additional demand from existing customers, but possibly not on the same time schedule.
So I'm confident you've been working with our staff, and I know there's been different scenarios talked about. I'm just wondering if there's any additional fire and rescue capacity that we're going to need on our side for an additional line. Like, is there any costs that we should be thinking about, or resources that we should be thinking about on that side?
That's a good question. No.
Okay.
We'll, of course, during construction have our own, security, just as a matter of course for a construction project. But it really doesn't increase risk in terms of fire for the city or policing.
Okay.
So there really should be no impact on the city in that respect.
Because that's always a concern, right? You just don't know what, even vandalism or anything, does that need to be monitored, but Fortis takes care of that?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Continue now.
Gary, over to you.
I guess I'm up. Good afternoon. So more of an update. It's been probably a year and a half since we've given you an update on this project. The dates keep slipping on us, but for those who weren't on the first, explanation of the project over a year ago, what is it? It's basically we're adding 47 kilometers of new pipe. We're upgrades to our existing compressor station here in Coquitlam. We have to construct a new compressor station in Squamish area. And right now, the environmental assessment process we're undergoing is in a suspension mode. We're stopped the process because we want to address some of the issues and feedback we got through the process. More to do with Squamish. But so that's where we're at with that. We're anticipating that going to start back up again, probably our final submission probably by, or the certificate we're hoping to have by February of 2016. The actual cooling of the gas and liquefaction, of course, is going to be done by wood fiber LNG, not by Fortis. We're just supplying the gas to these folks. So a lot of concerns with the compressor stations. That's what I'm tasked with, trying to build the two compressor stations. This is the existing facility up in Coquitlam right now. It's been there close to 25 years, operated safely. We take safety and emergency preparedness very serious with Fortis, and we do mock exercises annually. It's never had an issue. We hope it never has an issue. I shouldn't say hope. It should not have an issue. We feel very confident in our safety systems. There's redundant systems. We have a built-in fire suppression system with nitrogen water. Your local fire department has come up and witnessed this system. This additional upgrade or addition is going to be to the sort of north, northeast to this site. It's basically going to be about the same footprint as what you see here, but to the northeast. So it's going to be monitored 24/7, just the way this one is now, and it's going to have 2 additional Fortis employees. That's the plan right now. The big difference is that this is going to be electric drives over the gas turbines. This is a conscious decision to try and eliminate some of the noise and also the emissions. We're going to try and incorporate some camouflage techniques, because this station right now is not very visible, but the new station we feel will be a little more visible than this existing one here. Yeah. So in this EA suspension, we've asked for an expansion of the EA, and the pink line you see there, that's the expansion we've asked for in this suspension. And this is to address a couple of issues. One being there's a riparian area and wetland area we're trying to avoid with this expansion. And the other is we just didn't know enough, we didn't do the detailed engineering to the point where the access road, we need a little bit more area to get up to this facility. It's fairly steep in there, so. So the big issues we were finding on the feedback from the EA process is the noise and the safety, which I've already spoken to, and the third is the visual impact. So the noise, I was the operation manager for 10 years up there, and I never heard a complaint about noise until we went to the process here about expansion, and I think we had 3 or 4 residents come forward saying they're concerned about what the noise is going to be with this expansion. I guess I can state that we are confident we're not going to increase the noise levels, and that's because we're going to go electric drives and we're going to do mitigation techniques. I'm also committing to do more baseline study for this noise. Some of the residents questioned the study we did and didn't feel it was adequate. So I'm committing that we'll do further studies on that noise to try and placate those residents. Yeah, I guess that's it, that slide. The visual impacts, like I said, this station will be more visible than the existing one. We're looking at different techniques how we can address that. We'll either do some camouflage techniques, like I said. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the, if you look at the TELUS kiosks all around town, they have that wrap around them. We're looking at something like that for the buildings. We may end up putting a wall up around this facility and camouflaging that wall somehow, and that will also help with the noise. We're trying to, there's a balance we have to, if we can leave vegetation, we'll do that. But we're bound by safety constraints because of the Ministry of Forests. They like a bigger buffer area around with these facilities, so we have to remove as much vegetation to keep it safe. Yeah, you know, we've coexisted with the recreational users with no conflicts. We seem to get along. They built trails around that site, and it's like a well-beaten trail, so we feel confident we're not going to affect them at all either.
Thank you, Mr. Abbott. Sorry.
So, as part...
There's more, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Yeah. We're committed. We need, as part of this electric drive, maybe we should go back to the other slide, Gord, with the map. Yeah, so we have to get the power up to this facility if we're going to go electric drive. So the black square you see beside the Meridian substation there, that currently is zoned or not zoned, I guess it's dedicated to your use by the Crown for parks. So we need a piece of land there for a substation. And so we are proposing to extend your Coquitlam Crunch Trail up to the upper park there. And we've got a memorandum of understanding in your legal department now for review. Hopefully that'll get back to us soon and we can hammer the details out and get that agreement. But that would be a land transfer, so we would take that Crown land out of your hands and then put it in our hands to build this substation. Because we have to drop that 250,000 volts to 25,000 volts and then run a power line up to the station. And I think that's all I got for you guys here. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Abbott. We have questions from Councillor Reid, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Reid?
When you came in before, you were showing a bright blue building and you didn't know what else you could do. I suggested painting it, which was obviously too simple. And so you came back. Last time I asked them, you said they were going to wrap it.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, too, because all you have to do is go brown and green and you're sort of camouflaged, right? Can't be that difficult. But are you going to do the whole thing or just the new part?
Well, the old facility, you don't see it now anyway, so that it'll only be the new facility.
And if I see it, you'll paint it, right? You and I and a brush, right?
I'm really not confident you're not going to see the old facility.
Because I think, to me, it's just visual, and it's going to be there for a long time, so hopefully it's going to look kind of nice. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson.
Thanks. Speaking of visual, it seemed to me when I came to the open house, the power lines to feed the new compressor were going to be quite visual. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know if you noticed this map here. All those power lines are visible, and I think there's some environmental issues if we are forced to go underground. We have to go through a wetland area. We got to cross roads. The overhead is much less intrusive from an environmental standpoint. I understand there is a visual impact, but that area is pretty well a spider web of power lines now, and to expect us to go underground when we would be the only one in that to be forced to do that, it's be quite onerous on us.
The other power lines though are kind of going east-west. This one's going north-south, roughly, correct?
Direction-wise, I can't really.
They were perpendicular to the other one that's going to the left, right? It just seemed to me when we were showing a schematic of the power line going up, it was pretty obvious. I'm not saying the other ones up there aren't, but those are massive transmission lines that never get buried.
Paint them? Yeah.
It's pretty onerous to go underground. The cost is over double the cost, and like I said, there are other environmental impacts.
Okay. The noise. Will you be? Because we spoke again, you know about the noise.
Right.
Will you be looking at the average noise over a 9-hour period to the middle of the night, or will you be looking at what the noise levels are currently now and trying to make sure that you don't go above those?
Well, I'm actually looking at a longer. We did a 24-hour noise survey that first time. I'm trying to get that extended to maybe a week. So we, because that was one of the complaints from the residents that we didn't do a large enough sampling period. So, but we're committing. Our modeling is telling us that we're not going to increase noise levels over what they currently are, and I'm pretty confident. I'm very confident that we're not going to exceed those current noise levels.
Great. And I think you guaranteed me last time. And if wood fiber LNG plant does not get approved, will this project still be going ahead?
No, it will not. So yeah, to that point, I guess I didn't give you an update on the dates on that. So the financial investment decision is currently for the end of this year, with an in-service date of 2018. So that has changed since the last time we gave you an update. So,
thank you.
And thank you, Councillor Towner. Question or comment?
Thank you. I just want to thank you for coming in today and take this opportunity to say, Gord, you alluded to me being familiar with some operational realities of working with the natural gas system. And just for the record, say I worked for Fortis for over 16 years. And I just want to say publicly that I was always impressed by and continue to be impressed with the organization's safety record and initiatives for both residents and employees. So I appreciate your proactivity with, the integrity issues with the pipeline and whatnot. And I also just want to say that I also always appreciated your community involvement. I took chance of every opportunity when I worked there as an employee to get money from Fortis to donate to charities that I volunteered for, and we value your community improvements and contributions and whatnot. So thank you for that. But I also want to just ask, since the proposal for the compressor station is going to be electrical, I trust that there'll be backups in place so there's no outages?
Actually, no. If we lose power, the station's down. That is the downside of electric drives over gas turbines. We're at the mercy of BC Hydro.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Towner.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've got a quick question. The little black square that is the current, is it provincial parkland owned by the province?
It's actually Crown land that's been, I'm guessing for lack of better terms, tenured to Coquitlam for future use as a park.
So we had some value invested in that. So when we first, it sounds like, when we first heard about your offer to extend the crunch up to the upper playing fields, it was just totally on top of something. It was without any strings. This now is, we're losing a little something by you taking, by this little black square not being available to us as a park sometime. Are we not?
Nothing's changed from our original proposal. This has been on the table since day one, so.
Yeah. I wasn't aware of that. The General Manager of Parks, Rec and Culture has a comment. Thanks.
Yes, I'd just like to confirm the Speaker's comments. All along, we knew that the work required would have an impact on our lease, a small portion of our lease, and the negotiations that occurred and the benefits that are being accrued to the city from the proposal is exactly as originally proposed.
Oh, okay, that didn't sink in when I first heard it. I thought the crunch extension was totally above and beyond anything. Anyway. Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions?
Okay.
Mayor Stewart.
Very quickly. I acknowledge that the piece of land is not exactly someplace where we put the playground for the park next to the substation. So I don't see us that having a great deal of significance in losing something, first of all, that doesn't belong to us, and secondly, that we're going to use. My question is, I didn't realize that the extra capacity was interruptible. I assume that wood fiber is therefore prepared for the interruptibility of its source.
Well, it is an issue. We did a risk analysis and indicated, within the expected outages and
cost benefit. It didn't work, and away it went.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, and I also want to acknowledge the work that so many people at Fortis do in our community. In fact, just this weekend I was at the farmers market, and one of the Fortis people was singing in the choir. There she is, yep. Or at least lip syncing.
That's Joe and Isaac.
At least lip syncing, I didn't actually hear her voice.
Fairly true.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. One last quick question, sir, if you don't mind.
Sure. Go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
So in terms of potential power outages, does that not make a small case for undergrounding the lines up to the station? A lot of big trees that could fall on those lines.
Well, the reality is that that's the lowest risk for the power outage. So,
but it was a good try. Yeah. He's on our side.
I think he needs a massage for stretching that question so far. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk.
Item 5 is a report on proposed enhancements to the Get Connected, Get Active program. We have introductory comments by the General Manager of Parks, Recreation and Culture Services. The report is before you for information.
I'm just going to make it really brief. The report is pretty self-explanatory. I just want to make it clear that this is really the first step. We do want to take a harder look at the Get Connected, Get Active program. We do want to make some adjustments that we think are beneficial to provide recreation to the residents of Coquitlam who do have an economic need. But this is really just the first step. We do want to take a broader look, but we do think this is an opportunity to enhance the program right away, and then it also gives us an opportunity to examine those adjustments to see whether we're hitting the mark on at least serving the current users of the program, but also the potential to expand those through these kind of service enhancements. But we do think there's greater opportunities in the larger picture to do more, and we will be doing that as part of a future work item.
Thank you. I have Councillor Asmussen, Reid, and Mayor Stewart. Want to comment or question?
Thank you very much for the report. Something I supported when it was initially brought in back in 2008, and I think it's been a very good program. And I see the enhancements as being fairly minor. They're not massive, but they are an adjustment to what needs to be looked at. A couple of points, though, I guess it comes down to, I read the report about Coquitlam being the highest for assistance, and I looked at that and I said, what's for qualifying? I mean, it's a difficult area with people of low income, but we do have the issue a lot of times now. We're finding out a lot of people living in $1 million homes claiming zero income. So are we really serving all the people, or are we serving people that that are manipulating the system? And when you look at doing an analysis, are you going to be starting to look at those parts too? That just sort of, I don't know if it jumped out, that sort of jumped out to me in that regard.
The larger analysis will happen in 2017. Municipalities do this very differently. Each municipality has a different way of approaching it. Some municipalities will take a look at your tax information and look at your RSP contributions and determine the balance there. If they see that, your T4 or your return says that you are living below the poverty line, but you've managed to put $30,000 in RSPs, they take a look at that balance and then decide how you qualify. We can take a look at something like that. How we do it now, though, is we rely on the service agencies in Coquitlam to be our partners in administering this. We don't employ people to specifically go through people's tax returns. Some municipalities have, say, 3 to 4 staff that is their job to do that. They mine through your financial information. This city has never decided to go that route. Instead, we rely solely on our service providers, agencies like SHARE or ISIS or the school district, to refer people that they have deemed eligible through some process to be part of our program.
Because I guess some reports recently have come out in a range of areas, affordable housing, different stuff, how factual the information is on people of need. Because we always want, this program when I first is really wanting to get the people who are in need and helping those needs and providing. That's why I say when I look at the enhancement, I think that's a nice way of trying to. I mean, there's an extra cost, but we're trying to give them better choice range. But I do think we need to really look at that avenue of it and make sure that the dollars that we're putting into, because to me, if we target the dollars to the right people, then we can even take out that $10. We can really enhance the program more for those in need. That's what my feeling is on looking at that. And so I do have, I'll support this move where I do have sometimes, my question was that we're going to enhance it, then review it, rather than reviewing the program and looking at it and then adding in the enhancements later. So it just...
I should probably respond to that. The idea right now, we have certain people that use the system, and the enhancements that we're proposing right now are not likely to increase the number of people using the system. They're likely to increase the support for people in the system.
I agree.
So that's number one. Our goal right now is to keep the people that are in, because there's people that are disenfranchised from our, because of economic realities, from the public system, and bring them to recreation is the first step in doing that. Keeping those that are in the system is number one, and supporting those that are already with us is very important. But those that are not taking advantage of our system now are not likely to take advantage of it because we're offering an extra element. What we want to do first is just take a look at an immediate opportunity to enhance this, and we might by word of mouth and by the other opportunities enhance a number of people, but we think the key thing is right now is just improve what we're offering. So that's number one. That's the enhancement. We look to make much greater enhancement and look at opportunities as we review the larger program. But this is an opportunity to give council an idea of what we're thinking about, give you some brief, well, maybe not as brief, a number of pages here, but give you information on the program, give you a sense of where we're at, give you a good idea that we're reviewing it, and then let you take a look at letting staff proceed with some minor enhancements to those that are probably mostly currently in the system. Okay, because I don't think those that are out of it right now are likely to take greater advantage of it. However, the next step might be more substantial, and that was the idea.
And I guess my other point, what I'd like to see, when I look at the stats we're trying to get active, and part of the thing is when we hear stats from the field sports and different, and the master plan talks about participation rates in organized sports and stuff, active participation is declining. So it would be nice to see in that view, is this leading to some more active in moving into more organized sports or organizations and that, and creating that, and what are the barriers then to, if we can take those people from this type of drop-in type of stuff into the more organized active programs. So that's, I would like to see that correlation moving forward, because we look at our youth today, especially, and the lack of not being active and those health issues we're dealing with. But that's one area I'd like to see if this program has that correlation. And if it doesn't, how do we then help with that next step? And so.
Thank you. I have Councillor Reid, Mayor Stewart, Councillor Marsden, Councillor Towner.
Thank you. I love this program. I don't know that it's accomplished all that I want it to do, but I really like it. I think the example of you get with a single mom and 2 kids of just under 28,000 we have to have a look at that, because that's very 2008. Right now, I think it would be quite a bit higher. I guess like Councillor Asmussen, I too have problems. I looked on attachment 1 on how the applications are processed, and we have a lot of people who just claim they have no income whatsoever but are living in $1 million homes, and then coming and applying for this, and I think that's just so wrong. It's just so wrong, because this is for people that really need the help. On page 5, you mentioned about page 4 and page 5. Page 4, you said 2014 there were 3832 residents using the program. And on page 5, you said 3,080 drop in admissions. Is that the same thing, or am I getting too?
Through the chair, sorry if I can answer the question. Yeah, so 3832 is the total number of people or individuals, children, everybody in the system. 3,080 is actually, it discounts the 3832 by 627. This is so that's the total number of passes that were unused. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't add up still? Well, there's a lot of numbers there. Right. It should add up.
The 3,080 took the 50 pass option.
Yeah, it's the 50 pass option.
Okay,
so it's only one component of the users.
Question, thank you then. The passes that they get are not distinguishable from any other passes, correct?
That's correct.
That's good, I like that. And I think where you say unused passes, I'm sure there's lots of parents that are working double jobs, and this is the problem I have when we have such a low threshold. If it's a double parent family and they have 4 kids, that's really hard. It's really hard. This program's meant to help people, not for people to take advantage of it. So whatever we can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Stewart.
Yeah, I don't want to dwell too much on that reality. I don't know how much leakage there is in or ineligible participation in the program. There is, and I don't know whether we actually have a statement on there that asks people to somewhat declare that these programs are beyond their means. I don't want to put anyone at a disadvantage or make anyone feel bad, but I also don't want to lose a program because we end up with comments from the public that says, there's a bunch of people out there that, drive Mercedes or whatever, and we recognize that LICO doesn't take into account offshore income or assets. There's actually at the bottom of page 5, it says, we recognize that people are living with low income for a variety of reasons, including people that are working in low-paying jobs, temporarily unemployed, chronically unemployed, unemployable, usually due to a permanent medical or mental health issue, or seniors without savings or a pension. And I don't know where that is, because the people aren't living with low income because they have no savings. In fact, there are seniors with savings that have no income. My mother would have qualified for this program even though she had assets upon her death a good amount of assets. She was comfortable. And so I wonder if we're focusing it in the wrong direction by only looking at income, or whether, so that was one concern. I also, on the unused passes, I want us to explore to find out why, because is it that some families don't see the benefits of using the program even after they've applied for it, and even after is there some requirement based on something at social services or some structural requirement that say you must apply for this program in order to qualify for something else? I would love to see us understand better why 25% of these people who go through a process apply and then don't end up using the passes. And I wondered if I don't know how that drop-in program works, but I'll find out offline, because is it transferable, or the pass is transferable, or is it a pass that's stamped and poked or whatever?
Do you mean the 50 pass? Is that transferable? It is transferable, the 50 pass admission card. Yeah. So if I'm a parent, I can take a swipe for myself and for my child off of my 50 card.
Okay, or you could give it to your friend.
You can, except your picture pops up, so you have to be there. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Stewart. Councillor Marsden.
Thank you. I like this program. I think it's got some good pieces to it. I don't think we need to modify anything with regards to looking at seeing how we determine how people qualify. I don't want to see us putting this in the hands of staff. I don't think we need to. When you look and say we've got 3,800 people in the program, I don't think we need to put staff resources towards looking at the 3,800 people and their qualifications. I don't share the concerns the others might with regards to the are the right people using this? Are there people that have income offshore that qualify? Out of the 22,000 that fit the LICO approximately, only 17% of the people are applying for this anyway. So it's a fairly small number to begin with. So I don't want to, again, spend staff resources saying, oh, gee, out of that 17%, did 10 of them not qualify? I just don't think I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze in that case. So I think it's good. That said, there may be some value when we do our research to look back and say, of those 20% of the 50 drop-ins that were issued that didn't get utilized, is there a reason behind that? One question I did have on page 7 speaks to the total value of services. So that with this increase, that we'd see a value of services rise from $528 to $900. Now, again, that doesn't mean we have a true cost increase, because those costs are already fixed, correct?
That is correct.
Exactly. So this isn't we're now throwing more money at this. We're just opening up programming that already has capacity and just opening up for people that currently can't take advantage. Is that correct?
Mostly. It's hard to say absolutely 100% because it could be a nominal. I said through the report we've said there might be a nominal cost because sometimes you might get I can't fathom a situation where a facility would have to add additional staff because we've expanded the program. However, you never know. There could be very, very nominal increases, but we believe they will be more than fully recovered by the additional cost of someone taking advantage or the fee for the program. It is important now that you've raised that just around the value. We've talked about it in the report as value because it's not foregone revenue. We don't. Those are not paying customers that would be at our door today, and they would not be if we expanded the program either. It isn't. We just assumed they would not be able to take advantage of our services. So, but we did want to have council understand that by offering this, you are offering services to these residents of that much value with very, very little cost, potentially nominally indistinguishable in our budget, probably is what we believe. It's hard to say zero, but it's nominal, and we don't even really believe that we will see it at all in our operating budget.
Okay, I think that's good. And again, from the perspective of this, I think this opens it up that we've got, kids in our schools that have friends that maybe can't go to the rec center with them. And now with programs like this, they can. Mm-hmm. So they're able to hang out with their friends and feel more included in our community. So I think this is a great program, and thanks for the report.
Thanks, Councillor Marsden. Councillor Towner.
I just want to echo a lot of the same sentiments already expressed. I'm a huge supporter of this. I think providing assistance for recreational programs is good for not only the people that need them, but for our community as a whole. So it's very positive. My question, though, was, I may have already been answered, was I worry that not everybody who may need this or want it knows about it. Like how door knocking, you go to different neighborhoods, there's so many buildings and areas that may have residents that would want this kind of program that have signs, no papers, no papers, no papers. So they don't read the paper, they may not go on the website. So is it people that are already connected to agencies? Or, the mom working 3 jobs may not be with an agency. So my concern is I would love to see a lot more youth, maybe youth at risk and people taking advantage of this. And my question is about how is it advertised so those who may benefit from it are aware of it?
You're correct. We do rely a lot on our agencies to be our communicator of this information. And when we do this review, we need to find out from people who don't know about it. Good luck doing that. But, we can start with the people that do know about it and say, how did you hear about it? But then we need to go where people are and find out from them, how do you hear about things from the city when you're not connected, when you are working those 3 jobs. So there's a lot of work to be done to get to the rest of the percentage of the people who are low income who don't know about the program. A lot of work to be done there.
Yeah, but I like what Dennis said about, a kid can't go to the gym because he can't afford it, but he may not know, and the teachers in the school may not know. Anyways, yeah, that's a challenge. But great program. Thank you.
Point of clarification before we get to Councillor Wilson. So if we rely on our partners to forward the names of the people who qualify, Does that mean somebody who hears about the program and the general community thinks that they qualify have to go through that partner, or is there a way for them to directly to apply? And then how do we vet that application?
Yes, I apologize. I will clarify. There are two streams, just the majority of our referrals come through agencies.
Okay, good.
We do have a staff that does filter the ones that do come to us directly.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wilson?
I just wanted to maybe clarify a couple of things. The low-income cutoffs take into account how many kids you do have, so it's a different amount for each kid that you have, and they get updated every year. So I think 2008 was when we started using it, but we don't use 2008 figures today. I think one of the reasons why 25% of the people didn't use those passes is because in this demographic there's a lot of transients, and not transients. You know what I mean? A lot of transition that people make, and there's a lot of people that move. There's a lot of really good intentions, and then people just don't have the capacity to make it happen. Through my experience with kids sport, we don't have many people at all abuse what we do. We have over 700 applications every year, and there's a couple that abuse it. Most of the people that we work with know about this program, and the agencies that we work with are the same agencies that the city works with, and they're very capable and they're very, very good at it. My one question was, when down the road, hypothetically, we have the YMCA, will our one pass be accepted at that facility as well? If that's part of the plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Because I'm closer to the YMCA. Yes.
A single word answer is fine.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'd entertain a motion to receive this report.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Councillor Asmussen, second by Councillor Marsden. Any further discussion on favor? Opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you.
That was
One
good.
answer is fine.
Item 6 is a report on Leigh Park. It's a construction update. We have introductory comments by the General Manager of Strategic Initiatives. The report is before you for information.
Bruce Lee.
Second.
One word.
All in favor?
Okay. Go ahead.
Just very, very brief. This is the last report you're going to get on these projects individually. What we're going to do is there's so many of them coming up, and we don't want to burden the council agendas with all of these individual reports. So what we're going to do is we're going to bundle them up, and similar to the litigation report, we'll give you a report out on all of these projects 2-3 times a year, and that way it'll give you less of a burden of having all these reports fired at you. But in the meantime, you have the Leigh progress report. Everything is on schedule, on time, on budget. There's no surprises yet. Subject to weather conditions, of course. It's an outdoor project, so we're here to answer any questions.
Councillor Asmussen has a question or comment.
Well, and I guess that you related to one of my concerns is the timing of projects and the potential cost. By doing a project starting in November and running through the weather conditions we have and the ability to keep on budget and the type of construction that you're going to be left afterwards. I mean, I think Leigh Park's been something I've been pushing for a while, since the area around that's been built out for a while now. But it's just my concern that when we have seen this before, and May will be here when we did the Town Centre Stadium, and we put artificial turf down in the fall, which caused all sorts of problems and difficulties with construction. So that's my only issue, is the timing of when we're doing this construction.
Yes, here it is. Right.
There we go.
Raul's going to address it.
Mr. Clark?
Yes, that's
I think it's appropriate for me to make a comment. Maybe more than one word here. I know we're pressed for time, but we've got a lot of projects on the go. We've got probably 4 or 5 projects in the Northeast alone, not including the Smiley Creek School, the Outdoor Town Center Plaza, where SI is building the field house in Mundy. We've got a lot of projects. It is ideal for us to try and have the project planning completed in time for handing it over to SI, Strategic Initiatives, for them to tender and construct in the summer months. It's just not been possible given the number and volume of projects that we have going. So we work together with SI to try and maximize and optimize the time when we tender, and we're going to try and do that. We're improving every year, and But some of these, because we have to get them going, we just have to work with the timelines we have for the number of projects we have. So that's part of our planning process, and we've got to do better in terms of planning some of those, but there's a volume piece that is hard to get a handle.
I guess my one concern is I'd hate to come back with a cost overrun and that we need to reduce something within the original plan. That's my concern. Thank you.
Great. Mr. Clark, did you have anything to add to it? No, you didn't. Okay. Councillor Wilson?
I have nothing to add.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wilson.
Since this was approved, we got a whole bunch of feedback on dogs and the use of dog parks and what people want in a dog park and how they don't use the dog parks and that sort of thing. So has that changed or informed the design in any way, or is it still the same? I can't remember.
Is that working? It is. Just speak it up. Yeah, I've got a good voice. Anyway, through the chair, I'm going to hand that one back over to Raoul again.
That's what you were trying to do.
No, thank you, James. No, the design we felt was appropriate and remains appropriate. We haven't amended it. It's the same as it was when council saw it. We think it was well designed, and we're more supportive of it even now when we hear more and more about the need for these facilities. So we think it's going to be very, very successful. But we're confident it will be.
Thank you very much. Councillor Reid moved. Councillor Hodge, I think, seconded. Oh,
Is there anyone else? I just want to work.
okay. One more comment from Councillor Zerillo.
It looks great. Could we have a sign right from the start, dogs must be on leash? Because there's a lot of trails and there's going to be bikes everywhere. And it would be great if we just started on this park that dogs need to be in the park area or on a leash. That'd be awesome. Thank you.
In the off-leash area.
And $1,000 fine under that.
We will certainly work with our Parks Department to develop an appropriate sign to have it installed on or before opening day.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
The big numbers
It's
are
been
fine.
moved and seconded by Reid and Hodge. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously to receive that report. Thank you. I entertain a motion. Oh, no, we have other business. Speaking of dogs.
We're deferring it.
Are we deferring?
You know, we certainly can, in the interest of the other items. We certainly can. There's no time sensitivity to this particular item, so we could certainly put it off for a
I
week.
think committee would appreciate that. So we're deferring OB1. I don't think there's anything else.
There were no other OB items.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. Entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Asmussen, second by Councillor Hodge. All in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Now we're
And
going
thank you to the
back.
public for watching.